Success for Life with Paul McKenna. Goal setting, directing your destiny.
We all have dreams and desires. There are many things that you'd like to have, do, or be. I'd like you to stop for a moment and choose one of these goals that you aspire to, and take a moment to let your mind wander, fantasizing about what it would be like to have this particular dream realized now. Some people find it's helpful to ask yourself, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Allow yourself to see the things you'd see, hear the things you'd hear, and experience what you'd feel if you had truly achieved this thing that you desire. You've just done what all truly successful people do. All really creative, successful people think about and vividly imagine what they want to achieve. Some people call it creative planning. Others call it visualizing your goals. Albert Einstein called it thought experiments. In business, they spend many hours hallucinating about what the future will be like, and then, of course, checking whether their fantasies are possible. They call it strategic planning. It doesn't really matter what you call it, as long as you do the things that I'm going to ask you to do to make your dreams into realities. All the great creative geniuses throughout history used a creative state of daydreaming to help bring their ideas into the world. Nikola Tesla, the genius who gave us the alternating current that we use every day to bring electricity into our home and run all the technology that we use in our lives, could design a machine perfectly in his mind before he did it in the physical world. Michelangelo, Mozart, Walt Disney all referred to the creative daydream or reverie state where ideas just seemed to come to them. What they were doing was really a form of self-hypnosis. But why is it so important? Because for any new creation from a human being to happen in the physical world, it must first happen in the imaginary world. If you look around you, most of what you can see once started as an idea in someone's head. All of the wonderful tools, things we enjoy today like television, buildings to shelter us from the elements, automobiles, clothing, computers, all technology, all are products of the human imagination. What you become better at, what you place your attention on, you get more of. Research has consistently shown that what you practice, you become better at. What you place your attention on, you get more of. The more you think the thoughts of success, the more you take the actions that lead to success, the more successful you become. In order for you to change, you need to first of all change your thoughts. We all need to do this creative activity of creating goals. Goals are very important. Viktor Frankl is a famous psychologist who wrote about his experiences in a concentration camp during World War II. He made a personal study of why only 1 in 28 people imprisoned within the concentration camps survived. He observed that those who made it through were not necessarily the fittest, healthiest, or most intelligent. Those who survived had a purpose to live. They had a goal. Goals were what kept them going. When the mind has a target, it can focus and direct itself until it reaches that goal. If you have no target, then your life's energy is dissipated. You may have heard the saying, you get back what you put out in life. So if you put out vagueness, then all you'll get back are wishy-washy half results. If you want to change your life, the best way to start is by having definite goals. As the Reverend Robert Schuller says, failing to plan is a plan to fail. Sadly, most people's goals are things like to get through the week. They don't stop and design the kind of life they truly want to have. Less than 3% of Americans write down their goals. They probably don't realize how important goals really are. There are many ways to set goals. But when you listen to and work with these tapes by choosing the goals that you'd like to achieve, you can use these tapes to help you reprogram your mind, to repattern your unconscious, to ensure that you're focusing it like a laser beam so you'll take control of your life and steer it in the direction that you want. One study showed that men, on average, die just 2 years after retiring. As humans, we need something to strive for. I'm sure you've heard about the importance of goal setting before. It's become almost a part of common sense. But with only 3% of America writing down their goals, how common is it really? So some of what I'm going to say you've probably heard before. But a crucial difference is that this time we're going to program your goals directly into your unconscious mind. In the past, goal setting may have seemed like hard work. But using the incredible power of hypnosis, we're going to program your mind to achieve your deepest desires. A famous study at Yale University in the 1950s asked students about their plans for the future. Only 3% of them had written goals. 20 years later, the researchers returned and discovered that the 3% with written goals were now worth more financially than the other 97% put together. The researchers also discovered that the 3% seemed to be happier and more joyful than the others. It's amazing that only a small percentage of people actually bother to make lists of their goals. Most people stumble through life leaving things to chance, wondering why they feel bad. It's like going out in a boat without a paddle, getting tossed and turned by the waves, rather than steering deliberately in the direction you want to. Most people spend time making a list for the supermarket, but they won't make a list of the really important things they want in life. Goal setting is one of the things that will make you better than the rest. The future's a good place to get interested in, as you'll be spending the rest of your life there. Because when you have a goal, you have a purpose, a direction, and your mind needs that. In the 1970s, Dr. Maxwell Maltz wrote a best-selling book called Psycho-Cybernetics. Cyber is a Greek word which means steersman. Cybernetics is a relatively new science that looks at the control and communication in animals and machines. Living organisms and certain sophisticated machines have sensors that detect deviation from a set goal. They're able to feed back information which is interpreted so that corrections can be made to the output or behavior of the organism or the machine to keep it on a target for the set goal. In other words, what that means is that you could compare the mind to a heat-seeking missile. Its goals are its targets. If you're unclear about your targets, then how are you ever going to achieve your goals? You can't hit a target if you can't see it. Remember, cyber means steersman. So with goals, you're looking at how you decide to steer yourself in life. This is worth knowing because while on course to achieving your goals, you may face setbacks. Just as an aeroplane has to constantly make tiny corrections whilst on its way to a destination. This is one important thing that all really successful people know. That's what cybernetics is about. Taking in feedback and adjusting to keep on target. Or, if you like, goals can be seen as the software that determines your direction, your energy levels, the edge of your limitations, what drives you and ultimately what makes you successful. An even simpler way of saying all this is, you always get more of what you focus on. This works positively or negatively. For example, some people spend all of their time thinking of ways of how not to be fat. Of course, the problem with that is, in order to not something, you first have to think about it. For example, what happens if I say to you, try not to think of an elephant? You think of it. Some people are always saying to themselves, why am I so fat? How can I not be fat anymore? So what are they thinking about? Fat, fat, and more fat, always reinforcing the negative suggestion that fat is just the way they are. How much more useful do you think it would be to constantly be thinking of how healthy, fit, and comfortable you'd like to be? Your unconscious mind can only go in a specific direction when you tell it to. When fat or not fat is all you think about, your unconscious only knows what to move away from. You need to tell your brain what to go towards. So remember instead, always state your goals in the positive. How am I going to become healthy, fit and happy? One thing that all the unhappy people I've ever worked with have in common is that they know what they don't want. They don't like this or that. Always focus upon what you do want as opposed to what you don't, and do it regularly. Repetition is the agent of success. By regularly concentrating on success, you will condition your mind to attract more of it to you. But goals are more than just achieving status or acquiring material things. Attaining your goals is fine, but what you learn and how you grow emotionally, intellectually, spiritually on the way is what really matters. Just as studying at university isn't just about working to get a piece of paper, it's about meeting new people, having different experiences, and seeing new ways of looking at the world. In other words, it's the journey as much as the arrival that counts. What you achieve is often not as important as who you become in the process. Because when you're working on a goal, the goal is actually working on you. In the early 1960s, President Kennedy talked about putting a man on the moon before the end of the decade. He told America, "We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things not because they're easy, but because they're hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills." A gentleman on one of my seminars told me once he'd created a goal for himself of attaining a huge house, swimming pool, big car, yacht, and his family looking happy. Then I asked him, "But what about you?" And he looked puzzled. He said, "What about me?" Then he suddenly realized that he wasn't in the picture at all. So I asked him, "What were you going to do? Work yourself into an early grave to afford more things for your family?" Then I got him to quickly set about putting a healthy, happy picture of himself in that goal image of his. So you can see why it's important to be precise and have a goal that truly helps you. Then focus your mind so that you can concentrate your energy in a particular direction. As the German philosopher Goethe once said, "The greatest thing in this world is not so much where we stand, as in what direction we're moving." Goal setting is very easy. Everyone can do it. In essence, this is all there is to it. 1. Think of something you want. 2. Imagine what it would be like to have it. 3. Check to see that it's okay for you to have it. 4. Think about how it will come about. 5. Focus your mind upon your goal regularly. So now you know the basic idea of how creating goals works. Let's go through the 10 steps of successful goal setting together. As you do this, stop the tape after each stage and take the time to do it fully. Step 1. First of all, ask yourself, what do I really want? Brainstorm. Write down what comes to mind. You can organize it all later. You don't need to be specific at first. Just an outline will do for now. If you have any problems getting started, then ask yourself again, what would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? Don't be too surprised at some of the things that come up. Oh, and don't start thinking about how it's going to happen yet. Just let the creative process continue. Think about all the major areas in your life: family, relationships, career, spiritual development. What would you really like to learn? What skills do you want to master? How much money do you want to accumulate? What character traits do you want to develop? What do you want to give back to the world? Do you want health and vitality, wealth and character improvements? Choose things that really excite you. Some people ask themselves what they'd do if the world was going to end in just a week. This also puts you in touch with what's really important to you. As you do this, really imagine your goals in as much detail as possible. You need to really visualize them. By the way, everybody can visualize. For example, think of your front door. Which side is the handle on? And how do you know that? Because you see an image of it. Also, listen to the sounds that are part of your goals, and the feelings, the smells, the tastes. Create a rich internal experience of having your goals. Don't underestimate the power of your ideas. For example, money doesn't create ideas. It's ideas that create money. Einstein said, imagination is more important than knowledge. Disraeli said, imagination rules the world. So stop the tape now, complete the exercise, and start it again when you've finished. Okay, step 2. Next, prioritize. Find your most important goals. Which goals are your top 3? Take the time now to go through all of them and find the most important of your 3 goals. Then, once again, write them down and start the tape again when you've done that. Step 3. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to imagine having achieved one of your goals. And at the same time, ask yourself this question. What will having this goal give me? The reason for doing this is to discover the values that underpin your goals, to understand the essence of what really drives you. We get an insight into our values when one of them's violated. For example, if someone is disloyal to you, it's because you value loyalty that you felt upset. Values let you know what's important to you. On one of my seminars, one man said that his top goal was money. So I asked him, what will that give you? He thought about it, imagined having lots of money, and said, it will give me a feeling of security and people will respect me. So what was really important to him was security and respect. Those were his values. Now, creating feelings of security and respect are easy, as you'll discover listening to these tapes. So that's what he did. He used hypnosis to make himself feel more secure and respect himself. And the money showed up in his life very quickly. So when you ask yourself, what's important about a particular goal? What will achieving your goal do for you now? Specific words or a phrase will come to mind, like security, achievement, contributing to life, something that's specific to you. The words you choose will signify your values, what's most important to you in life. Because any goal you have is really just a way of fulfilling your values. Some people have a goal that's helping others, because they value making the world a better place. Someone else might have a goal of winning an Olympic medal, because they value human achievement. Let's discover what your values are now. Vividly imagine having achieved one of your goals. See what you'll see. Hear what you'll hear. Feel how good you'll feel. Now, ask yourself, what does achieving this goal give you? What's important to you about this goal? Notice what words or phrases come to mind. Keep doing this until you have a list of words and phrases that represent your values. Now, ask yourself, what's important to you about all of these values? This is your most prized value. It's at the very core of what drives you in life. So now, you should have a detailed list of your most important goals. Maybe a new house, promotion, wealth, and so on. And what having those things will give you, your values. Confidence, security, enhanced self-esteem, a feeling of achievement. Okay, let's move on. Step 4, your life's purpose. Dr. Charles Garfield, the author of Peak Performers, New Heroes in American Business, found that peak performers are committed to just such a purpose. In fact, all the great achievers in history had this factor in common. They had a definite purpose. Having goals is good. Knowing your values is important. But how do they figure in your life's purpose? Motivational speakers talk endlessly about goals without considering the importance of values and purpose. For example, many people's goals exclusively focus on money, pursuing it as an end in itself, believing that when they have enough of it, They can do what they really want. I've worked with a number of people who are at the end of their lives. I've asked some of them, what do you wish you'd done more of and less of? None of them said, I wish I had another Mercedes. They said things like, I wish I'd laughed more, or loved more. I wish I'd spent less time worrying. There's a saying that the best things in life are not things. Of course, money and fame can be blessings, but just acquiring symbols of success will not necessarily make us any happier. Only you know what you truly want. The way to find your life's purpose is to ask yourself, what do you love to do so much that you'd pay to do it? Ask yourself, what do you really feel passionate about? Ask yourself, what would you choose to do if you had unlimited financial wealth? Ask yourself, what are the people or characters from history who you most admire, and why? Ask yourself, if you could achieve anything that you wanted this lifetime, what would it be? Answering these questions will help you to get an overall idea of what your life's purpose is about. Steven Spielberg decided his life's purpose was to be a storyteller. He achieves this through movies. Martin Luther King was a minister. His life's purpose was to be an inspirational leader to millions. Your life's purpose doesn't have to be to change the world. Being a good citizen in itself is a noble purpose. To help you get clearer about your life's purpose, on the other side in the trance sequence, you will ask your unconscious, your intuition, your higher self, if you like, to assist you. Stop the tape now and ask yourself those important questions. Step 5. How will you know when you've achieved your goal? Some people have no way of knowing because they don't have a day-to-day method of measuring whether they're on course or not. The solution is simple. Be specific and have a validation procedure. You need to have sensory-based information. What will you see when you achieve your goal? What will you hear? What will you feel? What will you smell and taste? This will give you a way of knowing if you're getting nearer or further away from your goals. Some people place the validation too far in the future. They only see the end result, a big house or car, or they hold off their happiness until they achieve these. You need some signposts of success on the way. These could be smaller goals. On the way to great wealth, there may be smaller but significant amounts of wealth that let you know that you're heading in the right direction. So stop the tape now and think of the smaller steps on the way to achieving your bigger goals, and then start the tape again. Step 6. Now, do what we call an appropriateness check. As you project into the future, check to see that having your goals is genuinely for your good and doesn't harm others. Sometimes on our way to achieving a goal, we can overlook important factors. What good is business success if it's at the cost of your health? Also, check that your goals are in your control and not dependent on others having to change themselves to make you happy. So your goal should be something that you can directly make happen. And then check to see that there aren't any hidden rewards for you not achieving a goal. Also, make sure that they're your goals. Some people choose a profession to please their parents rather than themselves. Stop the tape, do that now, and start the tape again when you've done it. Step 7. Knowing you're on track is easier when you have a timeline of events that need to take place in a sequence that lead you to your goal. So, get an idea of the time it will take you to achieve one of your goals. A month, 6 months, a year, whatever the length of time. Then, working back from your outcome, the big house or the car or whatever, figure out the major steps that will need to take place on the way to you achieving your goal, and then write down those steps. If you like, vividly live those steps. See what you'll see, Hear what you'll hear. Feel how good you'll feel as you achieve each step on the way to getting your goal. It helps to get a clear, big, bright image of each step. So you need to think through the final result and the steps that lead you there. Next, we're going to do an experiment to find out how you organize time in your mind. Dr. Richard Bandler, the founder of NLP, developed a wonderful technique called timelines. This is how it works. Think of some activity that you do every day, like brushing your teeth or getting dressed. Think about doing it tomorrow, and notice that an image comes to mind. Notice where you make that image in your mind. Is it in front of you? Is it to the left or the right? Next, think about doing that activity a week from now, and notice where you make the picture. Is the image in front of you? Is it to the left or the right? Is it further away than the other image? Whereabouts is it? Next, think about doing that activity 6 months from now, and once again, notice its location. Is it right in front of you? The left? The right? Is it further away? Whereabouts is it? As you look at the locations of the images, you're able to see time moves in a particular direction for you. Does the future extend out in front of you? Or does it run from left to right, like a strip of movie film? Does it curve in a particular direction? Where's the past? Is it behind you, or is it somewhere else? Take a moment to understand the direction that time moves for you in your mind. A small number of people have no specific direction. They just have everything in front of them. By looking at the direction of time with that activity you chose a few moments ago, you can see where you represent present time and how it leads to your future. We call this your timeline. In the trance sequence on the other side, I'm going to ask you to imagine a timeline of success. Step 8. Stop and ask yourself, what's likely to get in the way of me achieving my goal? Think of what the obstacles are, because by knowing the problems in advance, you'll find it easier to overcome them. Lack of specialized knowledge, space, time, money. Will you have enough confidence to achieve your goals? Do you start things and then not finish them? Will some people not take you seriously? What kind of obstacles? Write them down. Projecting into the future and foreseeing obstacles gives the benefit of hindsight before you achieve something. Stop the tape and do that now, and start it again when you've finished. Next, ask yourself, what am I going to need to do to overcome these obstacles? Who will I have to become? What kind of character traits will I have to develop? It's really important to handle these problems as early as possible. Then you'll be more confident about succeeding. Stop the tape and do that now. Start the tape when you've finished. Next, think of some times in the past when you've exhibited those positive character traits, or similar ones. Or imagine what it would be like if you did have those qualities. For example, if it's, say, confidence, think of what it would be like if you were totally confident, filled with inner certainty and optimism. Then imagine how you would approach one of your goals. Notice the difference in your attitude and the way your behavior changes as a result. So stop the tape now and do that. Start it again when you've done it. Step 9. Make a list of all the resources that you have. Just as if you were going off on a holiday, you'd want to pack all the things you'd need so that you could really enjoy yourself. I mean, make a list of everything that's a resource. Friends, skills, education, finances, time, health, character traits, where you live. Something like a telephone can mean world communication. Transport or access to it means potentially You can go almost anywhere. What resources and potential resources do you have? Step 10. Now, take those different goals and design them into your ideal day. How does it start? Imagine the kind of people you have around you, the places you go, things you have, how good you feel. Go into it in minute detail. When you do this, you are designing, so make it right. Make it so it feels really good. When you do it, go on your ideal day. What are some of the things that let you know how successful you are? Like Tesla, design your ideal day in precise detail. Let your unconscious know exactly what it is that you want. Let it encode into your neurology, because remember, for anything to happen in your life, it first has to happen as a thought in your mind. Stop the tape and do that now. Start it again when you've finished. All top athletes use mental rehearsal techniques. That is, imagining the game, race, or event going as they want it to, over and over again in their imagination. It works on a simple principle. Your nervous system doesn't know the difference between a real or a vividly imagined experience. That's why all simple positive thinking stuff doesn't really work. Just saying to yourself, day by day, in every way, I get better and better, won't necessarily make any difference. Just as if you said to your heartbeat, speed up, it won't go any faster. But if you imagined walking down a dark alley at night, hearing footsteps behind you, your heartbeat would speed up. The same rule applies to goals. To make sure you attain them, you must condition your nervous system to expect them. At least twice a day, take the time to vividly imagine and immerse yourself in the experience of achieving and living your goals. For example, when I work with a client who has a fear of public speaking, I get them to rehearse in their imagination speaking to a group of people confidently and successfully, again and again, so that when they come to do it for real, they have lots of past successes to draw upon and feel good about. So remember, you always get more of what you focus on in life. So focus on your goals and do it every day. Your unconscious only wants to make you happy, but you have to let it know what you want again and again every day. As Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote, a man becomes what he thinks about most of the time. Now you have some goals. Think about them continually, morning, noon, and night. Turn your goals into an obsession. On the other side of this cassette is a powerful hypnotic trance that will cement your goals deep in your unconscious mind so that you'll focus like a laser beam upon what you want. Use the trance on the other side at least every day for a week. Encode that new cybernetic map into your mind that will guide you to a destiny of happiness, abundance, and fulfillment. Keep your mind focused. As you fall asleep at night, think about your goals and make a scrapbook. Have a picture or symbol of a goal where you can concentrate upon it every day. Turn your goals into an obsession. Finally, take action. If all you had to do was think about what you wanted and it magically showed up a few seconds later, everyone would be driving Mercedes, living in mansion houses, wearing expensive jewelry with beautiful lovers. It would also be havoc if everything you ever thought of just suddenly manifested. That's why the universe puts one more step in between you thinking of what you want and you actually getting it. All the planning you've just done is futile if you don't follow the next golden rule. Take action. As General George Patton said, a good plan violently executed right now is far better than a perfect plan carried out next week. It's really important to keep the momentum of the enthusiasm you've already created. Think of at least one thing you can do today to help you achieve your goal, and then do it. Even a small step is fine. For example, a phone call will do. It's simple. Fantasize, rehearse, then go out into the world and do it. On the other side of this tape is a powerful hypnotic induction that will install your goals firmly in your mind and begin activating your powerful unconscious resources towards making them become a reality. Stand by to program your mind for success.
Goal setting, directing your destiny.